The
This
meeting.
conference will now be recorded.
Please keep your microphones on mute. If you are a caller and you have some twangy country going on in the background, we can hear you. So with that, I will turn it over to Chair Rotter to get us started.
Thank you, Blake. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the May 13th, 2021 edition of the Iowa 911 Communications Council. Kara, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Kara, could you give us a roll call, please?
Sure. Tracy Bearden,
Here.
Lawrence Hartpence, I think he's here. I think I saw him pop up. George Griffith, Mike Bryant, Mark Murphy, Jeff Anderson,
Here.
Richard Pierce,
Jump on mine. All right. Here.
Rob Dennert,
Here.
Jack D'Angelo,
Here.
Taylor Teeple, and I'll go back up. Lawrence Hartpence or George Griffith. They both popped up. I think they're here, and I think I see Mark Murphy.
Yep, I just got here.
Okay, all right, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Kara. If we could please have a motion to approve today's agenda.
So move, Mark Murphy.
Thank you, Mark.
Seconded, Tracy Bearden.
Thank you, Tracy. Any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Again, same sign. And the motion approved. Likewise, could I have a motion to approve the April 8th, 2021 minutes?
Anderson moves.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Seconded, Bearden.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Again, same sign. And the motion carries. Thank you. Blake, do you have a report for us?
I do, thank you. Just diving right into the quarterly financials, nothing really out of the ordinary or anything to draw your attention to. Certainly willing to answer any questions you might have. Just as a reminder, we did receive all of the expenditure collection forms. So this would have been the first quarterly remittance that we would have had to withhold surcharge, but we did not have to because everyone got their forms in. So thank you very much for that. We did pass through just under $1 million into the operating surplus, and you can kind of see where we're sitting with 1 quarter to go prior to the end of the fiscal year, with about $9.9 million, and that kind of incorporates the catastrophic failure. So one of the things that I do have, and let me get my slides up, probably go a little bit out of order. The third bullet there, end of year pass-through amount, I know it's always a question that comes up. Just as a reminder, basically at the end of the fiscal year, whatever is not obligated or not encumbered that's in the surplus, we do pass through to the PSAPs, and that amount has fluctuated over the last couple of years just with various capital expenditures that we have. That amount is looking pretty good for this year. I think at this point PSAP should be hopefully fairly happy with the amount that I'm seeing. It's around, I hate to give out the amount because it can still vary with, again, about a month and a half to go, but on the higher side of $50,000 per PSAP. And again, I want to heavily caveat that things could change. But like I said, I think that amount is looking fairly good for some freed up money to pass through to the PSAPs per Iowa code. Any questions on the quarterly financials? I know I kind of just glossed right over all of that. Okay. Just a reminder, and we sent out an email update about this with one of the wireline updates, but on the night of the 24th and 25th of May, there will be a large wireless update to the system. Think of it as kind of an operating system. Anytime you have to update your Android or Apple phone, similar type of thing. There will not be any degradation of service. But you may get contacted by Comtech that night just to make some test calls, and really that should only be a handful of PSAPs. So for the most part, just for awareness, but want to make sure everyone was aware of that evening. Kind of a housekeeping item from the ICN. If your PSAP is thinking of moving and that move will be done in the winter to early spring timeframe of next year, you need to get your request in by July 15th. And the reason for that is if there is a fiber build that is needed, they can only do that when the ground is thawed. And if you get too far into winter, they cannot complete that dig in time. So just again, a friendly reminder, if you're planning to move, to let's have a conversation and make sure we're all on the same page with dates and what needs to happen in advance of that. The final bullet there, I know that Lynn Warren from Zetron will cover a little bit more in depth, but just letting everyone know that the disaster recovery PSAP is operational and ready for deployment in time for storm season. So again, we've talked about this a couple different council meetings and settings. It's basically a 4-seat PSAP that is housed within the DPS mobile command vehicle. And again, Lynn will have a little bit more information on deployment steps when she does the shared services briefing. You can see where we're at on the wireline migration side. There are 7 PSAPs still yet to transition. 6 of those have standalone alley considerations and direct trunk considerations, so that's kind of why they have been pushed off to the end. But again, that is still underway. Any questions so far on anything I've covered before I get into some of the GIS and financial stuff? Okay, I'll just keep rolling then. For this last month, 8 counties met the benchmarks for a total of $66,000. That means for period 2, that's the second 6 months of the fiscal year, 77 counties have met the benchmarks, and for the entire fiscal year, we passed through just over $1 million. So a couple things looking forward. The updated grant benchmarks will be coming out and finalized here shortly. We are planning to move ahead with the same accuracy rates for GIS and alley to road centerline, and then also adding the 0 critical errors. So those definitions and exactly what needs to be done will get sent out here probably early June, late May. And just a reminder that we are moving to a GIS-derived MSAG, and you are all probably wondering what that is. We are having an informational webinar on May 20th about that. That'll be recorded. So if you are unable to make it, you can watch it after the fact. We are hoping to have 911 and your normal MSAG managers, as well as your GIS folks on that call, and we'll talk through kind of timeframes, what needs to happen, and why we're doing it. So all of those criteria that are on the benchmarks really need to be met statewide for us to be able to move to that GIS derived MSAG. So there's about 5 PSAPs, and maybe I'll start listing them here, that really kind of need to get working on it. The vast majority of counties do a really good job of trying and meeting the benchmarks. There are a handful that will probably need to do some specific outreach to make sure that they are ready to go for that transition. And then finally, the last bullet there, we did sign a contract extension with Geocom. It's really to provide basically the same services that they have over the last 5 years, to provide that portal, to provide the quality control of the GIS data, really to be the subject matter experts on NextGen 911 GIS within the state. And we did add one thing to that contract, and that is kind of boundary resolution. So as we continue to progress towards full NextGen GIS usage, the data has to be really, really tight and good at the seams, if you will, between counties and between PSAP boundaries. There are a handful of places within the state where there are a number of gaps and overlaps in that data. And it really is, neighbors talking to neighbors, counties talking to counties, and deciding, where those lines and boundaries actually are. We're going to have GeoCom kind of moderate those discussions. So that was added into the contract as well. So, normally, if you look closely at the quarterly expenditure report, you'll see that GeoCom expense that comes out of that, out of the surcharge, and we're just basically continuing that relationship on. Any questions on GIS?
Like,
Yes.
Rob Dennard in West Des Moines.
Yes, sir.
Have you sent out anything on that GIS derived MSAG informational webinar? I don't remember seeing anything on that.
I have. I invited our normal distro lists of PSAPs, GIS, service board contacts. Did anyone else not get it? I can certainly resend it.
Maybe it's just me. I'll keep looking.
Okay, I'll add you to the distro list just to make sure you get it.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, Sarah, yeah, I see your note in there too. I will at least send it to the two of you. Let me just make a note real quick. All right, so moving on, with the Travel Public Education and Training Fund, we do have one request to consider, and Jennifer, I got your note in the chat too. We do have one request to consider, another NINA training request, this time from Shelby County. It's actually 2 courses, Enhanced Caller Management, excuse me, and 911 Customer Service. They did request the total, the full amount, for just over $7,000. So I'll have that application ready to show when that discussion point comes up. And also we do have our first physical consolidation grant to consider. Just because this is the first one in 2 or 3 years that this has been around, kind of wanted to cover some of the enabling legislation around this and what this grant is, just as a refresher. So this grant is authorized by Iowa Code. It is up to $200,000 for each PSAP for their actual costs associated with the consolidation. And that does come with an equal match. So in order to get that full $200,000 per PSAP, they would have to document $400,000 worth of actual expense. This is for physical consolidation, so it does literally reduce the number of PSAPs in Iowa to 112 from 113. So again, this is Oline PD folding into Fayette County. You can see the requested amounts there. The detailed application has been sent out to the council members, and again, I'll have that to display here when we get to that approval process. But want to make everyone aware of that is going on. Any questions on those 2 items? And I see a number of you have said in the chat that you have not gotten that GIS Drive MSAG webinar notice. So I'll look in to see what's going with that and probably just send it out again statewide. So apologies if you actually get it twice. And with that, I will turn it over to Lynn for shared services update.
Great, thank you. Good morning. Just a few program updates. Page County, Lynn County will be live on Iowa Shared Services Max Call taking in the next few weeks. So I'll have that update for you next month. And as Blake said, the disaster recovery truck is ready to be put into service. The intention of this is if your PSAP is going to be unable to take calls for an extended time, we can dispatch this truck out to your area, and the calls will be forwarded to the truck. It will be staffed with DPS staff as well as hopefully staff from the actual PSAP. The process for activating the truck is that the PSAP supervisor, of course, after the calls have been all routed to your alternate PSAP. And once it's determined that it's going to take an extended time to recover the PSAP facility, the PSAP supervisor would contact their local emergency management, and that emergency management would contact the duty officer. The phone number and email that is there that was provided by Blake. This will basically initiate the process to activate the truck. The PSAP supervisor will be contacted by DPS to coordinate the next steps. We have documentation that is in the truck on how to use, how to put it into service, how to take it out of service. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Lieutenant Heath Hove. The phone number and email are there. That would be if you have any non-emergency questions, but of course, if you want to put it into, start the process of putting it into service, contact the Homeland Security duty officer. Next slide.
And real quick, Lynn, there was one question. Can you please define an extended period of time? And I think I'll jump in on that one. If you are looking at 1 to 3 days of being down, it might not. There might be other mitigation efforts that we can take to have those calls routed other places. But if it's going to be 3 days or longer, I think it's probably worth the discussion. And I don't know that there's a hard and fast rule. It would just be a discussion point on timing and who's available, either locally to staff that or timeframes that DPS could get that vehicle in place. So it would just be a discussion. Another question, is it available for a PSAP that's being remodeled? Again, it's probably a discussion that needs to happen. That was not the concept of it. And it would kind of be a discussion between what DPS is able to support. Again, it is more for if your PSAP is unable to answer calls because of a disaster. But again, happy to have the conversation with those that would need to weigh in.
And let's hope we don't need it.
Agreed. So that's all in the chat, Lynn. I'll turn it right back over to you for your last slide.
Okay. All right. Yep. No changes to this this last month, but it will be changing for next month with a few more green. And next slide. As always, we have a monthly newsletter. If you have signed up for Iowa Shared Services, you're automatically added onto the subscribe list. And if you're interested in seeing what is going on with the ZTRAN and state program, just send me an email and I will get you added to the subscription list. And I think that's it.
All right, thank you. And that actually wraps up my briefing as well, but I'd be happy to take any questions.
Hey, Blake, this is Jack. I had one item that did come up here recently. We had heard that some counties had told the telcos that they can stop the dual alley provisioning. And, I guess if this is correct, we kind of thought Comtech was going to inform the telcos. I don't know how much of that's going on. In the case of several telcos that were at the beginning of the migration, obviously they've been doing the dual provisioning for quite some time. So I guess, I don't know if you can give us an update on that. Do we need to continue to do dual alley provisioning at this time?
That's a really good question. I know a couple PSAPs have reached out to me on that as well. Bill Burnett from Comtech, have you come to a resolution on that? We are talking through, who can do that and the best way to do that. And nothing official has gone out, but Bill, do you have any updates on that?
So really, the half dozen PSAPs that are still not migrated, we're looking at trying to identify what telcos go to that. It might be, Blake, we can talk offline on this, but it might be easier just to essentially say, to a telco, if you're servicing these PSAPs, then you need to continue dual provisioning. If you're not, then you don't have to. And that might be, again, something we should confirm offline, but I think that might be the best approach.
Yep. So I would say it's coming soon, Jack. Again, nothing official has come out from us, but we're starting again to figure that out and understand the amount of work that's going into it. So we want to, get off of that just as quick as everyone else does. So it should be coming soon.
Okay, I appreciate that, Blake and Bill. It's just, there's probably several PSAPs that don't need to continue to dual provision. So if you guys are going to get something out, that'll be great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Any other questions for me? All right. I will turn it back over to you, Chair Rotter.
Thank you, Blake. All right, moving on to training fund requests. We have a single request from Nina in Shelby County for enhanced caller management and 911 center customer service. That grant request is $7,050. Is there anyone on from Nina or Shelby County that wishes to speak on that?
This is Jordan Sanders with Shelby County. We reached out to Nina to do this class since there hasn't been a lot available. I currently have 8 different PSAPs that have registered with a total of 26 attendees thus far. So if anyone knows of anybody else that is interested in taking a class, I still have some room open. I've heard back from most of the counties that are directly or surrounding us. That was my initial goal, was to hit as many counties that our dispatchers interact with. So now I'm ready to open it up to pretty much anybody and everybody that would like to take the class.
Okay.
And this is in person. We'll be in Harlan on June 4th and 5th.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this training fund request.
So moved, Bearden.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Anderson.
Griffith was second. Whatever.
Kara, did you get who that was?
I did. I have Tracy with the first and George Griffith with the second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Against, same sign. And the motion carries. Thank you. All right, and then moving on to the consolidation grant request that Blake has discussed between Fayette County Sheriff's Office and Old Wine Police Department. Is there anyone from those organizations that wish to speak?
Chief Jeremy Logan here from Old Wine. I don't necessarily have anything, but I'm here to answer any questions if we need to be.
Very good. Do we have any questions?
Chair, this is Blake. One question that the county did ask me, and again, this is the first one we've had. So sometimes you end up setting precedent, as things go. Certainly when we did this application, we tried to come up with all the potential questions and everything. One thing that they asked, they are not requesting at this point the full amount. If there are additional costs that they determine prior to project completion, would they be able to then claim this, up to that $400,000, $200,000 per PSAP? I don't know that I have a particular issue with that. I mean, they are well under the max at this point and understand that costs might arise down the road. But again, this is the first one, haven't had to consider that in the past. So maybe just some discussion around that, and see what other people's perspectives are.
Okay. Well, personally, I would be surprised if there weren't some costs that haven't been realized yet. And I think, the grant is up to $200,000 per PSAP, and if they have to come back to the trough before they reach that number, I do not see a problem with it. I don't know if anyone else on the council does. If you do it, maybe you could speak on that.
This is Tracy Beer, and I don't see a problem with it as well, as long as they did their due diligence in their application, as you can clearly see was done here. So I think that as long as you saw that they did a thorough application, they thought through all the costs, and they did their best to discover all those costs, and they still have money left, I don't think that's a problem. We don't want to discourage people from doing this. We want to encourage them if this is going to be in their best interest and provide better service for everyone and cost savings. We don't want to prohibit people from going down this route if this is going to help them out.
And again, it is for actual costs. So those will be documented, and we'll make sure they're not, duplicated or anything like that. So I am kind of in alignment with those statements.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Blake,
Okay.
Jeff Anderson, as a program manager, would you give your recommendation for approval of this?
I would. I saw nothing of issue, and it, is purely a local decision that I think, is not made lightly. I guess one more thing to draw your attention to, again, the precedent-setting part of this. Normally, surcharge is not allowable for personnel costs. There are some personnel costs documented here, but in my mind, that is being used for their match. Again, in my mind, we do want to incentivize this and encourage it. It's not coming out of the surcharge, it's coming out of the match. And there definitely are personnel considerations. So again, just wanted to point that out. That would be the only thing that I would be up for discussion on, or as far as, things that may be questionable. And I don't think it's questionable, to be quite frank. So yes, there's nothing in this application that I have any concerns on.
Thank you, Blake.
Yeah, Blake, I agree. I mean, personnel costs are certainly something that they're going to realize, and really the personnel cost is a perfect amount to be matching anyway. So I think it fits the intent of the grant process. Any other discussion? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to approve this consolidation grant between Fayette County and Oelwein Police Department.
Anderson will move.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second, Bearden.
Any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And motion carries. Thank you. Okay, reports of officers, boards, and standing committees. Do we have any technical advisory comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Jack D'Angelo. This is kind of a non-technical note, but another interesting statistic here. According to a recent article by the Iowa Capital Dispatch, Iowa's logged in about 37,000 fraudulent unemployment claims since 2020. And we're seeing that in the telco industry as well, obviously due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And these claims are specifically tied to identity theft, where people have filed claims pretending to be real Iowans or may not be jobless. Again, we've had several Iowa Communication Association or Alliance telcos complain about this. I think I read an article that there was, several 911 centers across the state having, or in the state and across the nation having the same issue. I don't know how bad that is, but the states are struggling to cope with the unprecedented spike in these claims. So everybody's overwhelmed right now with the unemployment claims. So it's very unfortunate when we have a crisis come up that we have so many bad actors involved. So anyway, 37,000 fraudulent unemployment claims since 2020. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can tell you that we have had one of our employees at Iowa County in the dispatch center be used, her information used fraudulently to apply for unemployment in the thousands of dollars. So it is a real thing, and it's out there in a big way. So thank you for bringing that up. Any other advisories? Okay, moving on. Chris Myers, I heard you on earlier. Could you give us an update, please, on ISICS?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Good morning, 911 Council. Some updates for you this month from the board. I'll start off with our TA request from CISA. Our virtual COML course will be held July 12th through the 16th. Again, this is a virtual session and it will be done using WebEx. We are limited to 15 seats for this one, so if you have the ability to sign up for this course and you can dedicate those days to participate, please do. With 15 seats, we are expecting them to go relatively quickly. If you are unable to do the virtual course in July, we will be working on a state-sponsored in-person COML that will likely be this fall. No definitive location set for that just yet. We're working on some logistics for that. In addition to that, we've had some work being done on our Iowa FOG. If you remember some things that we had previously mentioned here, we're looking at developing something similar to the NIFE, but Iowa-centric. We had our first scoping call with CISA. Things went pretty well, and we're working on meetings and the overall work for this development here. We're going to kick all that off pretty soon here. For those of you wondering about the East STR, that work to update it and kind of bring it back up to readiness after its recent deployment in Atkins, that all is now complete. It is in the process of being moved back to its normal spot in Johnson County, and I want to extend a thank you out to Chief Walzer out of Cedar Rapids Fire for helping us out with that. So the East SDR will be available for deployment again here probably within the next few days. The West SDR is still deployed in Clinton. We actually just completed a move of that SDR to a new location within City of Clinton to help improve the coverage footprint. I want to thank City of Clinton, contracted providers, Motorola, the tower crew, and Caltech for assisting with that deployment throughout. It has been a marathon, but so far things have been good. ISICS regional training is ongoing, at least the planning stages is ensuing. We're looking to have a virtual announcement out soon. We're waiting on an update for standard 1.4.0, which would be our pursuit standard. Once that is adopted, we'll probably roll out that virtual training session. We're looking at also a pilot for in-person training for ISICS. This would be for in-field users and dispatchers. We're kind of looking at that first potential toe in the water session being in RIC 2 and possibly being in this July. Details on that will be forthcoming. We're also still offering one-on-one PSAP and agency training for the interoperability talk groups and status board. This is, again, for PSAP personnel and in-field users. We've been able to do this in person and virtually. We just delivered one yesterday, actually. And there's no cost for this training for the agencies, and we do try to tailor it as much as we can for your shops. ISICS applications approved last month: Butler County, level 3, Joe Davies County in Illinois, level 1. Johnson County updated their access to level 2. Plymouth County was approved for level 3 access, and Marion County EMA was approved for level 2 access. Applications up for approval today include Harrison County updating to level 4, City of Osceola level 2, and TIP Rural Electric Cooperative level 2. Updates on standards and policies for ISICS and the board in general. The 700 megahertz air-to-ground channel policy and the update to ISICS standard 1.5.2 were both approved last month. Both of those kind of delve into the realm of how to land an air ambulance. Moral of the story there is that we'll have some new conventional digital channels to use to land a helicopter if you need to, and also you can use the regional tax on ISICS to do that, assuming you've got a sufficient coverage footprint in the area. The LT deployable policies comment period is over. We did not have any comments on that, and we'll be working on getting that approved here over the next month or so as well. Quick update on status board. We did have an unplanned outage last week due to a power failure in Des Moines. It affected some networking and data servers. That service was able to be restored in a few hours, and we sent notifications out to agencies that are using it. We continue to onboard new users. We just added several yesterday. If you haven't yet signed up, please do. There's no cost for this service, and it's a way for you to help coordinate among your own agencies and with your neighboring agencies as well. FirstNet sites up over the past month in Iowa. There's kind of a longer list here as the weather's been more conducive to tower deployment. Mount Ayr, Iowa, Corydon, Villisca, Emerson, Corning, Diagonal, Cromwell, and then one by Cedar Rapids by US 151 and Mount Vernon Road. All those sites went live over the past month, so a grand total of 8. Those are LTE and HD Voice FirstNet sites. And when it comes to in-person meetings, I don't have anything official to announce yet. For now, we're kind of in a holding pattern with some of those, but I am looking for alternatives to try to get us back to in-person meetings as soon as possible. That's my update, Mr. Chair. I'll go ahead and take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Moving on, not sure, is Jim Lundstedt on the line?
Yes, sir, I am.
Could you give us an update from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity, Infrastructure Security Agency?
ECD, yes, sir.
Yeah, I need to put that in my notes.
What a mouthful. Yes, I know. Yes, just a couple of quick things, and apologies for not being able to attend last month. I am currently detailed to cover the 5 states in CISA Region 6, which includes Texas and several states in the southern part of the U.S. So lots of demands on me for meeting attendance, but I apologize again for missing last month. 2 key things. Right now, we are working with the SAFECOM and National Council of Statewide Interoperability Coordinators on a project to update the interoperability continuum. This has been our guidepost document to identify interoperability. Chris Myers is on the working group that is part of that. We anticipate that being released for public use sometime in the next 60 days. The key is the 5 principles of interoperability are unchanged. We have just added some defining comments, including some better definition related to technology. Speaking of technology, our hallmark interoperability guide, called the National Interoperability Field Operations Guide, or NIFOG, is being released in a new version, completely new version 2.0. We anticipate that will be sent out for final review by the SAFECOM and NICSWIC group tomorrow or early next week, and anticipate that going to print sometime this summer, hopefully available for distribution in printed form to communications unit personnel sometime in the July to August timeframe. The document is being reformatted and will be slightly larger, about an inch longer. A couple of our key leaders on this have been working with stakeholders and specialists for about 8 months on this product. I'm actually was just chatting with the lead on it before joining this meeting. So we think it's very close to being final, ready for prime time, but hopefully will be out for review and comment next month or next week. Last thing I would like to remind you, we all know ransomware is in the news. It doesn't matter whether it's the Colonial Pipeline or the agency next to yours. I was involved in a cyber incident response request last week from a major city in Region 6. And just to give you a little bit of understanding of the scope of this, the particular IT director I spoke to has some 400 physical and virtual servers for that community, for all of their business lines. They were impacted by a specific ransomware I'm not allowed to disclose yet, as it's an active investigation. But because it impacted the domain name services routing capability within the city, they were advised to disconnect from the internet and took some time to do so. It actually crept forward towards their PSAP to the point that they lost records and CAD was impacted. Here was the message. What is your failover plan? If you're using paper or T cards or whatever your method is, and have you utilized it recently? One of the individuals involved in this response actually briefed our SafeCom NICSWIC meeting last week, and early this week, and you can still hear the stress in their voice as they're trying to describe their recovery plan. In many cases, ransomware is so impactful that the solution is simply to go offline and rebuild from offline backups or start with new equipment. So my message is, don't give up on paying attention to ransomware, being aware of phishing, smishing, any kind of attempt to get into your system through accessing a bad link, and be prepared. Exercise your backup plan. What is your backup plan in the instant case? And do you have that long view of what we're going to do if we're actually forced back to manual processes for a couple of weeks? Not trying to be a naysayer or a doomsday type, but we are intensely aware of the increased impact of ransomware over the last several months, and will continue messaging on this to our emergency communications partners for the near term. Any questions for me, Chair Router?
I don't. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, Jim, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, moving on to our committees. I know we haven't had a lot of activity because of the situation we still find ourselves in, but is there any updates from the 34A Administrative Code Committee?
No, Chair, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, and then likewise, do we have any updates for the Baseline Knowledge for 911 Communications Professionals Committee? Okay. Any legislative issues that need to be discussed? Okay, hearing none. I don't believe we have any unfinished business or new business or travel requests. So that leads us to business from the floor. Is there anything that anyone would like to say that's on the call from the floor at this time? Okay, not hearing any. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Anderson will move.
Second, Mark Murphy.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.